Welcome to this week's edition of Taiwan Outlook. I'm your host, Chi-Chen Lo. In this world of globalization, cross-cultural and cross-language communication has become more and more important, but it is not an easy job to do it so successfully. In today's program, we are very delighted to invite a guest whose primary job is to present Taiwan across different cultures and different borders and different languages. And his name is Mr. Matthew Hinson, and he's the editor and translator at the Department of Compilation and Translation at the GIO. Matt, welcome to our program.
Hello, Professor, and hello, viewers.
And let me start with your job. What do you do every day in your job?
Okay, well, the great thing about my job is that it's different every day.
Yeah.
Some days we will have speeches for the president or for various ministers. Other days it's press releases, depending on what's going on in the day. And other times we have regular publications such as the Taiwan Yearbook, which are just a basic introduction to Taiwan.
But the job must be very demanding, right? Because you have to know almost everything about Taiwan, and when you ask to do the translation.
Well, you've hit the nail on the head. I don't think it's a hard job, but I think it's because I've been doing it for a while. When I first got in, there was a test to get into the job. And when I took the test, I thought I failed. Because it was difficult, because it tested all areas of Taiwan. And that's what we do every day. And so every day I'm learning.
Yeah, it's also forced you to know more about Taiwan, right?
That's right.
And what for a suggestion for the foreigners, who want to know more about Taiwan? What would be the best or easiest way to know more about Taiwan?
The best way to know about Taiwan?
Yeah, Taiwan Yearbook.
Read the Taiwan Yearbook. That's right.
Anything else?
Anything else? I mean, read the Taiwan newspapers, because they all have online. Taiwan News, China Post, Taipei Times. They all have online versions that are free, mostly, I think.
Yeah.
So, if you want to learn more about Taiwan. That's a great way to do it.
But the thing is, news also only cover part of Taiwan, right? If you want to know Taiwan systematically, what would be the better way,
Well, there are various books about Taiwan. None of the titles come to mind at present, but there are some good books just about an overview of Taiwan that are in most libraries, I think.
Yeah. You do the translation now almost every day, you know, and what would be the most difficult part in doing the translation?
Timing, and just getting it done within the deadline. Sometimes for presidential speeches or something, we may have 3 hours to do a 15-page translation, which it's doable, but it's kind of a lot of pressure. But that's kind of what makes the job interesting.
But as I mentioned earlier, not just language barrier, but also cultural barriers. Because sometimes the president or the high-ranking officials may say something that is so unique to the local people. How do you overcome that kind of barriers?
I ask my local colleagues.
But doing this kind of communication, do you sometimes still find it difficult to understand?
Occasionally, but usually I can get a good enough of an understanding to turn it into English that foreigners will understand and accept as genuine.
But I think a good translator must master, 2 different languages or more than 2 languages, But what would be the most difficult part? Doing English to Chinese to English?
Well, I generally only do Chinese to English.
That's right.
So as opposed to English to Chinese, I don't dare do English to Chinese because my Chinese isn't that good.
But in terms of reading, you must have some good qualities, capabilities of reading in order to make it and translate into English, right?
Well, I like to think so, but I think there's a difference between knowing a language and being able to translate into that language, because you have to know the poetry, the stories, the historical background, and one character or word, depending on the language that you're dealing in, can have a different meaning in different places.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a full understanding of what that means culturally, your translation is going to be poor.
What do you do to make yourself more familiar with the local culture here in Taiwan?
talk to people, read the newspaper a lot, Chinese and English. I've tried to read a few books. It takes a while.
Yeah. You travel a lot?
I don't have time.
Yeah.
But I have. I mean, I've been to Kaohsiung and not Hualien, but the eastern part, somewhat Kending. So I've seen enough.
Yeah.
Or from watching TV,
Yeah.
I've seen enough that I can have an understanding of where places are, who people are, things of that nature, so that when they come up in a translation or in something we're asked to write,
Yeah.
I know what's going on.
Yeah. What brought you to Taiwan now 4 years ago?
What brought me to Taiwan 4 years ago? Well, I graduated from college and
What's your major?
Political science and Chinese, right? And I had the chance to either go to China or come to Taiwan,
Yeah.
right? And so I came to Taiwan with my girlfriend, who is now my wife.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So this is his second home, I suppose, you know?
you could say that.
Yeah. And do you know about Taiwan, how you look like, and then after you come to Taiwan, you know what it actually is? Any differences?
Well, before I came, I think my understanding was basically of the historical or political aspects of Taiwan, because these are the books that I had read.
Yeah.
You know, so then, but it wasn't until I came here that I learned about the people, if you will, the culture, the food. So it was all a very new and very different experience.
Any cultural shocks?
Cultural shock? Not really. Some language shock, Taiwanese, which I still don't have a grasp of. But culture shock, not as much, since I had already gone to China before. I had already been exposed to an Asian culture, you know, a culture with a Confucian background. So not that bad.
Let's come back to the translation job you've been doing. You know, to present Taiwan's messages or images to the world, you have to understand local culture, but also understand other countries' cultures, right? How do you bridge the gap between the two societies or two cultures when you are doing the translation?
With difficulty. It's always a test to get across a message that is both effective and neutral. Because there's always the possibility, that's always in the back of your mind, is how is this going to be colored, either locally or in foreign media. So when you're doing the translation, what we in my office try to do is stick as close to the Chinese as possible. Because that way you can't be misinterpreted.
So correct messages.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. And then, while also not sacrificing, you know, English fluency.
Yeah. And how make you know, how if someone wants to go into this kind of business, what do you think? What would be the the qualifications or criteria to be a good translator?
Well, I think you have to know your target language well, your mother tongue usually, back and forth. You have to know it completely, and you have to be willing to relearn it when necessary. Because that's what I've learned in my current position, is that English is my mother tongue, but I will never master it. There will always be something new every day.
That's right.
And then, of course, your source language. Your source language is the same, the Chinese in my case. Even if you're not fluent in the language, but you want to get into the translating business, that's fine. You can do it. You just be prepared to spend a lot of time poring over the dictionary. Beyond that, I mean, I don't think a particular degree is required. I think the best translators I know here in Taiwan don't have translation degrees. They've just been doing it for more than 10 years. So it's experience, but more than that, if you really want to be a good translator, and the nice thing about translation is that it's something you can do anywhere in the world. You know, as long as you have clients. But you need to make an effort to go to the place where your source language is spoken, learn about the culture, learn about the people. Because otherwise, when you're doing the translation, you're going to be completely out of your depths.
Among all those issue areas, politics, economics, cultures, and so on, what would be the most difficult issue area for you to do the translation? I know you're a pretty good scientist, you know.
Me personally doing economics, financial, things like that, I find them very challenging.
So you have to force yourself to study economics, something may not be like it.
Exactly. But I think that's also good because the nice thing about translation is it forces you to grow in every possible direction. You know, like some days we will be doing economics, some days we will be talking about agriculture, culture, any topic under the sun concerning Taiwan. So every day you need to be prepared to learn, go in a direction you never thought you wanted to go in before.
Also, any frustrations, you know, in your job?
Bad Chinese. That's a frustration. If a piece of copy comes through, and I can't discern what it means, and my local colleagues can't discern what it means, what are we supposed to do? You know,
and then what will you do?
Well, what will we do? We will either make a guess of it based on logic, but hopefully there's somebody we can call, the original writer, and say, what do you mean here? Can you make it a little clearer? Because otherwise the translation.
So there will be a back and forth, you know, process.
Yeah, it's a back and forth process, right? And it's a mutual learning process as well.
Yeah, and of course, apparently, translation is just a tool to convey the messages abroad. And your job actually is the so-called public diplomacy. In other words, to communicate with the foreign audience and try to influence them and try to give them a better view and correct view about Taiwan. So when we come back, we'll talk about Taiwan's strategy of conducting public diplomacy and what are the challenges that we'll be facing in the future. And don't go away, we'll be right back after these messages.